Hello, everybody. Good morning, afternoon. Welcome to another edition to our Self-Directed IRA Saturday. Thank you for joining us. My name's Andrea Chassin, and I'm an IRA specialist at Quest. We have a great event today. We're doing a little bit different today for Women's Day. We have Create Your Own Legacy Women's Panel. We have two great women who've created their own legacy and here with us to share some of their background and how their journeys. And so we're really excited about that. We have Meilani Huck and we have Shanoa Grove with us. Before we get started, though, we do want to go through some housekeeping and talk about Quest a little bit before we get into it. I'll try to be quick. So a little bit on Quest. We're the largest self-directed IRA custodian in Texas. We have about 20,000 active investor clients across the country. About 2.7 to 3 billion in assets under administration. So some can consider that still to be a smaller company, trust company. We have about 108 employees, with about a third of us being certified IRA specialists, professionals. And we have about 400 million in undirected cash. So for those of you who are looking to raise capital, this is um, a great place to be and to network at. We do always go through a disclaimer. All of what we do here is strictly educational. We do not provide any tax, legal, or investment advice. So if you need more on these topics, make sure to look for an advice of a professional. Um, so what's a self-directed IRA? Really quickly, for those of you who haven't heard about it, really it's in like any other type of IRA. We do add the term self-directed so that you differentiate the type of investing that you'll be doing. Here at Quest, you'll be able um, to invest in private assets, real estate, promissory notes, private entities, cryptocurrency, oil and gas mineral rights. Those are some examples, and we'll go through some other examples in a little bit. But really, the term is made up. It's just so that you understand that that's the type of investing that you'll be doing, as opposed to your typical um, stocks and bonds in the public market. What are some of the benefits? Well, true diversification, so that you're in both markets and not just the public sector. Tax savings, of course. Uh, Investing in what you know best, and investing locally with companies that are meaningful to you. So those are some of the benefits. Here's some other examples on investment choices that you can do within your IRA, but really it's really everything and anything that is not traded in the public market. Um, let's see here. We do have classes like this every Saturday, like today, and every Tuesday as well. We call them self-directed IRA webinars. We also have an national networking happy hour. We do that every third Wednesday of the month. This is for people who are not in Texas and cannot attend our in-person event networking events, which are self-directed IRA socials, every first, second, and third Tuesday of the month in Houston, Austin, and Dallas. So those are really always really nice. They start about at 6:30. You have networking, free food, then we have a speaker, and then you have more networking at the end. I did want to mention again our referral program. If you are a Quest client and refer a friend, you both get a credit of $25, and you can do this as many times, unlimited. We do lastly want to touch on this. We have a great boot camp coming up, Master of Tax Avoidance, on March 30th here in Houston. It is in person. It's at Rice University Moody Center. Make sure to join this. It's going to be a great boot camp for anyone out there interested. Make sure you, if you're interested and you want to have conversation with an IRA specialist, here's a QR code to uh, consultation. They're free. If you have any questions, we're always here to help. So without further ado, let's get started. Let me bring our two speakers for the day. Rilani, Shanoa, hello, how are you?
Great. Thanks for having us.
Thank you
Hi,
for being
Andrea. Good to be here for Quest.
Thank you, thank you. So before we get started and get into the questions, I do want to ask for you guys a little bit. What do you do? Where did you come from? And let's start there.
Yeah. Let's see. How did I get my start in real estate? And a little bit about me. I live in North Carolina, and I don't know. Should I get into my deepness now or just my overview now? You ready to get into the good
Yes.
stuff? Is that okay? So
Sure,
the
yes.
we're gonna get full on into women area here because I had a baby number 4 was 6 weeks old when baby number 3 on his second birthday was diagnosed with brain cancer. And at the time I was in a sales job that I hated and had I felt like I was working, working, working and barely had enough energy to come home, let alone, kiss my kids. I was definitely not a mom to like read to them because I was so exhausted by the time I got home, right? And it was when my son was diagnosed with brain cancer that I had lots of time to sit in dark hospital rooms and think about what am I doing with my life? And I had always talked about doing these big dreams, right? Like following these big dreams. I had read Robert Kiyosaki. I wanted to do all these big things, right? And hadn't done them to that point. But during this phase of battling cancer with my son, gave me a chance to really reflect on my life. And that's when me and my husband decided, let's do this. Like, what's the purpose? Like, what are we doing with our lives? And so um, I'd like to magnanimously say that I quit my job, but realistically, they fired me because I had so much time with doing hospital calls and stuff. So at that time, I was like, I could go find another job or I could spend time with my kids. But we needed money, and I wanted to follow my passions too. So that's when we started our first real estate company. Was when we celebrated finishing up our cancer treatments, and then I started my first. Business. And now we are coming up on 9 years of his cancer diagnosis, and he's doing awesome. And I think about the person that he's become in those 9 years, but also the person and the family that we've become because we have a whole different lifestyle now than we would have had we not switched over. So that's what got me into real estate and started flipping houses, tear down new builds, started doing commercials, started doing short term rentals. I've been doing short term rentals pretty heavily since 2017. And that's what I've been coaching on for the last 5 years. And but then I also really focus on helping coach people on how to do that work life balance and time management as real estate investors.
Amazing. Thank you.
Well, hey guys, Shanoa
Shanoa?
Grove here. Yeah, hey guys. So I'm actually a fourth generation real estate investor. My great grandparents owned about 48 houses. My grandparents owned houses. My parents still own about 12 doors to this day. So I'd say to say it's in my blood, I probably is a little bit of an understatement, but I will say I am of the age, just probably like most people out there, who is socialized to go to college, get a great education, which I did, and then go get a great job and go work for someone else. So that pulled me away from sort of my bloodline, if you will, of investing in real estate. And I worked in corporate America until corporate America. I realized that corporate America wasn't doing it for me in terms of building income, in terms of building wealth, in the same way that real estate investing had done for the rest of my family. So even though I was socialized to go do all those things, and I did, and I had a wonderful, I wouldn't change anything about it. I'm so glad that 20 years ago, I stepped foot into the local Real Estate Investor Association, the local RIA, and I stepped right in and I actually became a 5-year volunteer at that local RIA, where I was able to serve and give back to the community a little bit what I was learning about real estate investing and what I'd already learned through my family. And I was actually trying to get fired really hard. But instead, they fired everyone around me and they just gave me all of their work. So eventually, I ended up quitting my full time job. So I first started investing in 2003, left my full time job in 2004, and have not had to update my resume since then. So right now, my resume is in some version of DOS that even the techie people that their way to StreamYard this morning probably could not resurrect, nor would I want you to, because I love what I do in real estate. I love what I do in real estate investing, and I love what I do in terms of running the local real estate investor association. So after I volunteered at it for 5 years, I eventually took it over and bought it from the person who had started it. And I've grown it from this small investor association that was just meeting in a Mexican restaurant into membership in Austin, Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio. We've had about 100,000 people walk through the doors as either members, guests, vendors, sponsors, as part of this journey. And we've grown it to all over the great state of Texas. And for me, I specialize in all of the different strategies. So for me, I'm strategically agnostic. I just like to make money whenever the phone rings. And for me, that can mean any of the asset classes as well. So from single family, duplex, commercial, multifamily, et cetera. And I love what I get to do. People often ask me like, well, tell me, I know you're investing, but tell me a little bit about what you do. And part of what I do is real estate investing and running the Real Estate Investor Association, but I also have a smaller group of core coaching and training students. And when anybody asks me about what I do with that, is I always get to say, well, I help people quit jobs that they hate so they can do things that they love, and it feels amazing. And that is a little bit about what brought me here today, and a little bit about where I am on my investing journey. So excited to be here with Milani and Andrea and answer any questions you guys might have about what it's like to be a full-time real estate investor, what it's like to not have to update your resume, go to work for anybody else, and live a life of stress-free abundance that you get to control income, wealth, and your time.
Amazing, amazing. What a great start. Talk about legacies and great stories. Thank you. So I just want to say, if anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat and we'll get to them at the end. We'll leave about 10-15 minutes to answer all your questions. We do have a few questions that we want to go over, that we want to make sure we don't leave out. The next question that we want to ask these two amazing panelists are, what are the barriers you faced investing in real estate?
You want to
Milani?
go first?
Well, sure. So I would say, the barriers, when I first got started was just knowledge, right? Just getting to the right place, finding the right people, finding the trusted, local, ethical boots on the ground. When I got started in real estate, I'm a little embarrassed to say this, but 20 years ago, we did not have the YouTube, we did not have the podcast, we did not have the StreamYard, we did not have the Zoom, we did not have all of these wonderful things that most real estate investors who are just getting started today. All we really had was, just a handful of books, if even that, and the local Real Estate Investor Association. And that's really where the tribal knowledge came from when I got started in my business. So I would say that was a little bit of a hindrance for me, or just kind of took me a little bit longer, but I made it my purpose in life to get to know every single person that walked in the door as part of the Real Estate Investor Association. So I knew who had deals, I knew who had money, I knew who had tribal knowledge, I knew who had the power team, the network, I knew who had all the different resources that I was going to need to be successful. So I spent a little bit of time ingratiating myself and getting into some of those networks to be able to grow my own. But it's funny. When I think about all of the things that new investors have today, it is a little bit of a double-edged sword. So by that, what I mean is there are a lot of great, amazing gurus out there. But what I find is, a lot of the gurus don't live in your state and have different investing rules, different investing contracts, different traditions. And what I find is a lot of people who are learning from these out-of-state, YouTube gurus are in a position where they're following advice that may or may not work in their state. So what I tell people, so I invest here in Texas, I live here, I work here, I invest here. So as part of our association, Texas RIAs, right? So we teach Texans how to invest in Texas using strategies that actually work in Texas. So I would say be careful on, who you learn from. You want to make sure that you're learning from other people that are in the same area, have access to the actual contracts, the title companies, the contractors, the attorneys. If I look at my, my real estate investor black book, I call it my $1 million Rolodex. It is full of people that I have been able to build up over 20 years of investing in real estate. And for me, part of what gives me absolute joy is that I'm a connector. Like sometimes I think of myself as a 1920s phone operator. Oh, you need what? Oh, yes, hold on, let me connect you. Oh, you need what? Yes, hold on, let me connect you. Because I've built up this, amazing database of all of these different, folks that are so brilliant at investing and have certain depth and are subject matter experts or have incredible tribal knowledge. So I would suggest that anyone who's getting started, find that local group. Don't just listen to, the different stuff that you might hear, online, and just know who you are learning from. And, for me, I am, what's called a full cycle investor. So I cut my teeth during right after the dot-com bust. And so I started investing when interest rates were 7.5%. So it's like, I know how to invest based on interest rates where they are right now. I've invested through the basically free credit. I've invested through a great recession. I've invested through 10 years of the best market we've ever seen. I've invested through a pandemic. I've invested through ice storms, hailstorms, tornadoes, and hurricanes, and come out on top. So for me, the way that I find the best ability to do that is not just listen to the gurus who just have one strategy, but to be strategically agnostic. So again, you can make money every time the phone rings.
Oh, I just love you. I just want to be our new best friends. Amen to everything she said. I just want to add a couple of things when she was talking about when Chanel was talking about how you hear how different people are making money in different areas. And I feel like that's even more so with Instagram ads and YouTube ads and Facebook ads, right? That they're saying, oh, everybody can do this, but they're in a different location, but also their ads might have been recorded 8 months ago, 12 months ago, right? And I'm finding this a lot, especially with short-term rental gurus, right? Because there's like a gazillion out there now that all know. And this is a baby industry if you're in short-term rentals. So they're all acting like they've been around for a while, but it hasn't been most of what we're talking about now hasn't been around forever, right? Because Airbnb is relatively new. Sure, we've got VRBO that's been around for a little bit while, but we won't get into that. But it really bothers me knowing some of these gurus out there and seeing their Facebook ads, knowing how their market is doing right now, because right now compared to 2021, 2 years ago, we're down 15 to 30% in revenue. You can still make great money, but they're still running the same ads that they were running at the end of 2021 that is talking about how much money they're making, right? And so that really bothers me. You've got to be really careful. And that's why it's so important to go to a RIA, like Chanel was saying, to go to your local RIA to find out what's really happening in your area. I think that is awesome. Let's see, another thing you said. I guess one of the first, what was the actual question? One of the first blocks? So barriers. Thank
One of
you.
the barriers, yeah.
One of the first barriers that I remember facing was like, I can totally go do this. I could go do all these things, but I just need money, right? I remember that being, and now I kind of laugh at it because once you get experience, it's like, oh, that's actually really easy. And I remember people saying, oh, it's so easy to go and get hundreds of thousands of dollars, like just to have people lend that to you. And I remember looking at them at one of my early RIA meetings actually, and just like a little child, just like, I don't know what you're all talking about, but you all act like I can just get people to give me hundreds and thousands of dollars. But I look back at like bright-eyed me and I think, oh my goodness, little girl, you're going to learn so much and it's going to be such an adventure. But I remember just wondering, how are they all getting hundreds and thousands of dollars? Because I was raised, we don't have debt, right? You pay off your credit card every month, and I do not want to have debt. And so learning the difference between good debt and bad debt and how interest rates work, if you can borrow money at 10, 11, 12%, but you're going to make this much percent, then okay, then you've got to make sure that you're smart about money. And so one of the first barriers I had to break my mindset about was understanding debt and healthy debt, but also not getting out of control debt. To go a little bit deeper, one of the other barriers I came across was we had been flipping houses and doing great, like making great money, winning awards, like everything was fabulous, right? Well, all of a sudden we hit this year that, so when you talk about barriers, right? My opinion is that it's not a matter of if hard things are going to happen. It's a matter of when, right? So there's going to be a lot of barriers that come across because you're running a business, and that's super fun and it's sexy and cool, but it also has a lot of barriers that are going to come up, right? And we had a year that had a lot of barriers. It had a lot of things that we learned. And this was like 2016, 2017. And when we were flipping houses and we were leveraged about $4 million at this point. And we got into a lawsuit with one of our general contractors, and about 2.5 million of that got tied up in projects that I wasn't allowed to touch for 7 months. And I hadn't planned on that, right? And so that was like this new barrier of what the flip do I do now, right? And it got really scary there for a little bit, that I thought I was going to lose every monetary thing because this lawsuit was so bad. In the meantime, we had 2 different drive-by shootings at 2 different properties, 20 miles apart, but within the same 10 days. One of which was actually right on the driveway. And we had just taken pictures. It was a new construction home. It was beautiful. It was supposed to hit the market the next day. And there was a drive-by shooting that all of a sudden, this house that I was planning on putting on the market the next day was all over the news. And as people would drive by, it was definitely not, "Oh, look at that beautiful house," anymore. It was, "Look at all those flowers and candles and poster boards of honoring this person," right? The shrine that had been built up on our front driveway, right? And so when we talk about barriers in real estate, there's going to be some crazy barriers that come along, right? But having that attitude and learning that mindset of getting back up and have that like competitive attitude of like, I got this. I just got to figure out how I got this, right?
Yeah,
Amazing.
I want to just add to that. So, I recently read the book, The Psychology of Money, which was not what I thought it was about at all. And it was written by this author, Morgan Housel. And one of the things that he said that really resonated for me is plan on the plan not going according to plan, because things that have never happened before, well, they happen all the time, right?
Oh,
So
that's good.
good. I'm like, so it's like I tell every, new real estate investor, that is like, because I see so many new investors as they're getting started. It's like they only do, for me, our coach taught us 20 years ago, scenario analysis. So best case, worst case, most likely case. But what I find from every brand new investor is they do not just the best case, but the best case on steroids, right? The highest ARV, the lowest repairs, the shortest amount of time to get those repairs done, and the shortest time on market. It's like, it's like, well, why don't you do some sensitivity testing on that and, stress test it a little bit and see, where your model breaks. And no one wants to see in advance where your model breaks. And no one thinks, that things that have never happened before happen all the time, right? We've been seeing it this past week in the news as well. And I feel like over the 20 years that I've been investing, I've invested through 4 different recessions. So things like that happen, all the time, and you have to kind of stress test. I mean, obviously, you can't, think of, like a drive-by shooting and in front of your house, but there are things that you can kind of stress test and see, like, where does my plan make me bankrupt, right? And you always want to know what that is, and it's like, and can I financially survive that? So I think that's really good, not just to share like the rah cheerleader side of real estate investing, but also the real stuff. For myself, it's like, it's the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but, which includes all of the all of those exact types of instances, for sure.
Yeah, and especially if you're, because of all the options you have, you have YouTube, you have podcasts, you have RIAs that are giving great talks, and you start to drink the Kool-Aid, you're right, and you're like, I've got this. Like you sometimes you get so into it that you feel indestructible, but you have to still be cautious. Otherwise, you're going to start dropping money to every single guru. And I remember the first like big program I signed up for, the big coaching program, and I dropped a lot of money, like a lot of money. And I was like, but that's okay, because then I'm never going to make a mistake. They're going to help me so I never make a mistake, right? I was so ignorant. Oh, little me, that no, of course you're still going to make mistakes, but they are helped, you have coaches to help guide you through those mistakes. But don't be ignorant enough to think that you're not going to have barriers come up all the time.
Right. Speaking of support through your journeys, did you have a mentor or role model? And I think you've both touched on this slightly, but if you want to expand on this.
Yeah, I'll go first on this one. So I got a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, nothing to do with real estate, right? And so my whole college education cost less than all the other coaches that I've paid for over the years, right? Because I love to learn and I see the value of how much a coach helps you get where you need to be, right? And helps accelerate that process. And so, yes, I've had many over the years and have paid more than six figures in coaching because you can I was raised by amazing compulsive do-it-yourselfers, and they are fabulous and they are great, and they actually used to flip houses as well in retirement, and they told me never to do it, but I did it anyways, right? And but they were do-it-theirselfers and have a great way of figuring it out, but I just think about how much faster I've been able to do a bunch of different things because I was able to learn it so much faster and get that business moving and then move on to the next stream of income and start that one moving while checking on the first one, while checking on the second one, you know? And so it definitely helps accelerate is my opinion. I have so many, so I don't necessarily feel like I need to pick out any names, but definitely I do believe in having coaches and mentors.
Yeah, I mean, same here. So I don't think you could be a good coach or mentor without having others bring guidance and advice in your life. So I've had multiple too. And I think it's really the difference between taking the stairs versus taking the elevator, right? It's like, I want to get there as fast as possible. Now is good and so is now, right? So I think having someone who can tell you where the sand traps are, what to avoid, what really works and what doesn't. And, I find that the aperture of a lot of new investors is very much like this. And it's like, one of my girlfriends who's also a real estate investor calls me Dr. No, Dr. No. And she says, no one's going to crush your deal like Shanoa is, like pouring reality on it. But Shanoa is also Dr. KNOW because she has been through multiple market cycles, and she's going to expand your aperture so that you're not just in your own echo chamber and thinking that the toast is going to land sunny side up when it hits the floor, right? So I think that is so important. And again, it's the scenario analysis, it's stress testing, and it's also being around those local, educated, ethical real estate investors that can make sure that kind of pull you out of your own way, pull you out of your own thinking. So same for me, it's like I went to college, got undergrad, got an MBA, and I thought like everything was just about my perfect spreadsheet, and I thought my business was going to be planned out according to my perfect spreadsheet. And the truth is, the spreadsheet, the old saying, garbage in, garbage stays in. One of my first coaches taught me, no, Shanoa, garbage in, garbage out. My coach told me garbage in, garbage stays in. Garbage makes little garbage babies and like tries to, like hypnotize you to going in the wrong direction. So, you can have the best spreadsheet in the world with no mistakes in it, but really what is the key dependent is, what are you putting in there? And under having that tribal knowledge to make sure that someone says, oh, that's so cute that you think that you can, do this, but let me show you how the real world works. And let me help you avoid the sand trap that's right in front of you because you're about to walk off a cliff, right? Having that sounding board is, always, so effective. And one of the slides that you showed right at the beginning was the disclaimer, right, for Quest, which is, hey, we can't give you any advice in your investing. And what I always say for anytime I'm speaking for Quest is, yeah, Quest can't, but I can. So it's like, and I love how it's like I feel like when people come to me for coaching, and I feel like everyone expects like, hey, your first job is to show me how to make money, and it's like, not really. It's like my first job is to make sure we protect the principal investment because I don't want you to lose money first off. And then after that, yeah, I want to make sure you go in the right direction. But you have to be around people who are, real sounding boards and are not just, gonna, keep you, it's like you read a book, that's wonderful. Why aren't all the millionaires at the library? It's because no, you need that hand holding. Sometimes you need that tribal knowledge. And that only comes from sometimes being an apprentice under someone else who has been there, who has stepped in those sand traps and knows how to avoid them.
Amazing. And along the same subject, I've heard you mention the word tribe before. Can you elaborate on what you mean by this and why it's important to surround yourself with a tribe?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about like old times, like a typical tribe was about 150 people, right? So people had different specialties within the tribe and different, and I don't think they, thousand years ago thought of themselves as subject matter experts, but were subject matter experts that were deeply had incredible knowledge in certain categories. And I think being around that tribe that you can lean on and depend on, so you're not doing everything yourself. So Milani talked about like, being around parents, and also being kind of part, and I think it's part of all of our Puritan work ethic. It's like we got to do everything all of ourselves because, we have to be self-sufficient. And I think, self-sufficiency in a way is a recipe for poverty, because when you're 100% self-sufficient, then that means you can't grow and scale your business because, one day you're in charge of marketing, the next day you're in charge of real estate sales, next day you're taking out the trash, next day you're putting up sheetrock at your project, the next day you're taking your stuff to the dump. And listen, I was that exact person when I first got started investing in real estate, until I realized that self-sufficiency was going to cause me, instead of to do 10 deals a year, to maybe do 1 or 2 deals a year, right? So don't get lost in this, I want to do everything myself, or I want to learn it all myself. No, just surround yourself with other people who can fill in and help bring in those. I don't like to take advice from anybody who makes less money than me unless they're a subject matter expert, like a plumber, right? So it's like I want to bring that person in to help me, and I don't want to have to figure it out myself. And probably one of the big early traps I see a lot of new investors, get into is like they say, well, I want to learn more about investing, so I'm going to go and get my realtor's license. It's like, do you think I should? And it's like, listen, I'm 20-year licensed realtor and broker, but I tell most people, no, you don't need to. Just find any of the other out of work realtors that are out there, because there's literally one realtor for every listing that's on the market. So, and then I kind of take them through the logic, which is, okay, well, after you get your realtor license, then you're going to need to go out, if you're trying to save money, right? Then after that, you should probably go and get your electrician's license, because it takes, about 10, maybe $15,000 to wire up a house. And then get your plumber's license, because, that's going to take, maybe a $20,000, if you're building. And then go out and get, become a foundation person. And then really what you're going to do is you're going to work your way out of doing what brought you here, which is to make money real estate investing. And you ask any of those different trades as well. And guess what? They all want to jump into real estate investing, because they realize that these trades that support the real estate investors all make less than what the real estate investor makes. So, get your tribe together so you can have other people to depend on, so that you can actually grow and scale your business, and get that tribe to make sure that you're in a position where you're not having to figure out everything yourself. So, most new investors are kind of like a blind man in a dark room looking for a black cat that isn't even there, right? It's like you need someone sometimes to just like, take you by the hand. And there were several people as part of that, first real estate investor association that I went to that, took me by the hand, and I'm forever grateful. And that's the whole reason why I continue to give back and continue to run the local RIA, all the local RIAs in Texas, even though I don't have to. It is something I get an incredible amount of joy out of. And every time, I bring something to the tribe brings something back to me. And for that, that's why my heart, my head, my wallet, right, is part of the tribe and grows as a result of it.
Amazing. Melanie, anything to add?
I think that was awesome. Yeah, just reinforcing that a good leader doesn't mean doing it all by yourself, but knowing good ideas when they come, or knowing the right person to put in the right position to help the team succeed. Because if you are trying to be if you want to be good at what you do, then that's going to take even longer if you're learning plumbing and all of these things. If you want it to be crummy and you want it to be average, would you hire a plumber that this is their first time doing that type of thing? No. So if you wouldn't hire yourself in that position, then why are you even thinking about doing it?
Beautiful way
So
to say it.
amen.
That's well said. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, well, switching gears a little bit. Next question is what is your investment of choice for 2023 and why?
Let's see. Okay. So like Shanoa has been talking about, which I love, it sounds like both of us are not a rah, everything's great in real estate, you should do it all at all time, right? Like there are certain things that are kind of up and down right now. For me, if you were to have asked me in 2021 and 22, I was all in telling everybody they should get in short-term rentals, and those who have are doing great. I would say if you're not going to do it in the next few months, that there are certain areas that are getting saturated. I saw a question similar to this that I don't know if they want to tie it in now, about Airbnbs. I think in some areas, yes, you can still make really good money with short-term rentals, but it's not across the board. So even this question goes back to in your area. It depends. Are you investing in your area? Are you doing it out of state? Because I think Shanoa's answer in Texas is going to be different than my answer in North Carolina if you are investing locally, right? And so, and even with if you're talking vacation rentals for that type of short-term rentals, oftentimes, like a couple years ago, a lot of people on podcasts were talking about how great areas like Tennessee and Destin, Florida were for short-term rentals. And all of a sudden, by the time those podcasts got heard and published, all of a sudden in that 6 months, those rates had gone different, right? They had gone a little bit more out of whack, that all of a sudden it was like, oh no, you better not go there because like it's not as great as it was 6 months ago, right? So whatever I tell you right now, there I have a hard time when people ask me to broadcast for a whole year. I don't think that's fair because I don't know where you're living and I don't know exactly what your market is doing. So each market is going to be different and you've got to figure out which market you want to be in if you want to be where you are. And then if so, go to your local RIA and find out what is working and network and find out what is doing well. For me personally in North Carolina, we still have short-term rentals, but we are also heavily getting into notes even more than we have in the past because we're seeing more great opportunities with that as different things happen in the economy. And so we're being very creative with notes right now also. So I don't know. What do you say, Shanoa?
Yeah, it's funny, even though I don't feel like I'm the rah-rah person, and I don't think this is rah-rah, but, in terms of, what's my investment of choice for 2023, I feel like the answer is yes. So I think a lot of people come to each opportunity with their little, sort of strategy of choice. And, for me, I don't want to, meet the opportunity with, hi, I'm here. And this is how I want to, do this deal. And if it doesn't fit in that deal box, if you will, then I walk away from it. For
Yeah.
me, I kind of show up a little bit more greenfield and say, this is the opportunity. What strategy can I plug in as a result of that opportunity? Because, being diversified in your strategies, I think is key when the market is at an inflection point and or there's uncertainty in the market, which there is right now. I will say, I do hear a lot of people talk about Airbnb, and I believe there are riches and niches, but I also really understand that you need to understand your niche. So I think a lot of people romanticize instead of analyze their Airbnb investments. And I was reading in the Wall Street Journal about 2 months ago, there was an article, and it started with hashtag Airbnb bust, because people aren't looking at the analytics of their local market, right? So it's like for you and your local market, it's still working. But overall, and there are several sites that track the analytics of Airbnbs, it's the number of nights rented is up. But the problem is the rental inventory is up at a higher rate than the nights rented. So this gap right here that you're seeing, right? These are people who are jumping into the market and maybe seeing their total nights rented go down and saying, what the heck happened? Well, it's because of that romanticization and the saturation that in some cases, in some areas, we're seeing in that Airbnb market. So, and I would say for Airbnb specifically, it really matters where you're, putting your, short-term rental. Like sometimes I'm seeing people who are saying, I'm doing one in a certain area. I'm like, is there even a market for that, over there? Right. So, I think, people, are going in with too little analysis and too much, romanticizing of what that could be. And it kind of reminds me of this story that I, heard, and I, don't have all the background on it, but basically it was, Rockefeller in, the elevator in like, summer of 1929 before the October of 29 crash. And the person who was, running the elevator, or I guess I've heard just kind of you push it forward, it was like Rockefeller was like, how's it going today? And the elevator operator was like, oh man, it's fantastic. I'm making a killing in the stock market. This is just so incredible. And Rockefeller got out of that elevator and he basically said, sell everything. The market is at its saturation point and I want to get out before this thing starts to, go under. So I would say, just like anything, understand the economics of it. Don't just listen to the local guru. Don't just, romanticize it, right? Understand the economics of it, understand the supply side and the demand side. So, again, demand is up for Airbnb, but supply is up at a higher rate than demand is up, and just on average. So I can't speak for, what's happening in your particular area, but, one of the reasons why, at least in Texas, why we haven't seen some big drop in average price, even though sales are down 30%, year over year through January and down about 15-20% in February. The reason why sales prices have not dropped is because we're still in an undersupply in the market, right? So that's one of the reasons why the for sale market is still holding up. But as you get to a saturation point and as inventory hits that inflection point where it becomes more of a buyer's market, then you start to see those prices come down. And I think that is, again, just understanding the, economics of your market is so critical to being, successful. Just because you watched an HGTV show about how to, do short-term rentals and it sounds sexy and it sounds like I can pull, $8,000 a month out of this rental. For me, when I look at those, it's like, and I'm talking to investors about, who are going down that path. I always just say, best case, yeah, you might pull $8,000 a month, but let's look at it under worst case scenario, which is, let's just say it's just a regular rental. Does this investment still make sense if that is the case, right? So understanding that, understanding the true opportunity and understanding the analytics, I think is critical. But for me, it's like I don't want to kick anything out of bed if I can make it work based on what's happening in the market, based on kind of our forecast of what's happening in the market. So even though I said I don't want any of you guys who are thinking about investing to go out and get your realtor's license, you may be asking, well, why do you still have yours? It's so that I can do these, just can do this analysis and can understand the supply side, not just the demand side of the equation. So, for me, I want to be opportunistic about everything. But what I would tell, an investor who's looking at any deal right now is to really make sure your financing is lined up correctly. So, and make sure you're looking at the right comps. So every wholesaler who brings you a deal wants to show you comps from May and June of 2022 when the market was at its fever pitch, right? And the truth is, if you're looking at a comp like that, your sales price is probably going to be off by 10%, at best, and 15 or more percent at worst. So make sure you're, analyzing it correctly with those right numbers, and make sure that you have financing in place to be able to weather, whatever storm, is trying to punch you out, right? So, and what that storm is, we may be in a recession. But the good news is that most recessions last less than 2 years, but your financing may only last 6 months. So you need to make sure that you have financing as a partner as opposed to financing as a vendor. And what I mean specifically by that is your financing as a vendor, your hard money lender as an example, they'll foreclose on you when the market goes south. But a financing as a partner, man, they're going to stick with you and they're going to stick it out. So make sure your financing is for the win, even if it costs you more money. You have to look at it kind of like an insurance policy. Well, it's going to save my butt just in case, we do go into a recession. So be long-term greedy, right? Live to survive, another day. I think there's a James Bond movie, Live to Die Another Day. It's like when markets are at their inflection point, when markets are in uncertainty, that's the attitude and approach that you need to have. And then for the things that don't, make sense in this market, let me tell you, one man's trash is another man's treasure. And never is that more true than in real estate and real estate investing. So have premium buyers that you have, part of your tribe, right? That you can send those deals off that don't work for you. And part of that is also, and again, this goes back to the Psychology of Money book by Morgan Housel, is know what game you are playing and know what game your competitors are playing. So some of, of the people in real estate, market like myself, I'm in it in many cases that, half of my business is a long-term play. Some of my rental properties I've owned for 20 years, right? Since I started investing. Some of those I still have. And then I'm also doing stuff that's short-term play. On a short-term play, our job is to force value in a very short amount of time. On those longer term plays, like I can pay a lot more if I know I'm going to hold it much longer because I understand how appreciation and paying down the principal works. But if I've got to force value, I have to stick to my guns and really understand what the market is telling me today. So, discount trumps appreciation on those short-term holds, but appreciation trumps discount on those long-term holds. So again, it's really important. Are you competing with someone who's playing a shorter game, or are you competing against someone who's playing a longer game? And know how the game literally needs to change as the market kind of ebbs and flows, which, we're in more than a bit of uncertainty now. Ask anyone who's, flipping a house right now. It's like, they're becoming, what we saw a lot in 2007, 8, and 9, which is, wow, I'm all of a sudden going to be a landlord now because I couldn't sell my house, right? It's like we're seeing that same thing now. Now investors are, accidental investors in a better spot because 70% of the loans out there are under 4%, right? So they can actually have an opportunity to cash flow, but they're pouring more into the short-term rental market, more into the rental market because they're saying, I'm not getting the price that I wanted, that I could have gotten in May, June, fever pitch, right, of 2022. So I'm changing how I'm playing the game. So having good financing in place allows you that flexibility, even in these markets that are so incredibly uncertain.
Okay, amazing. Which brings us to the next question. Actually, um, how are you all financing current investments or new investments and new investments?
Chanel, I'll let you go first, and then I'll chime in because, well, I guess I'll just say that I don't finance as much as I used to. When I was flipping houses, when I was doing tear down new construction, running short-term rentals, you don't have to use much financing, right? So I am a little bit out of that game, I would say, for my real estate because I'm so focused on short-term rentals, and you don't need as much financing as you do when you're doing other plays. So Chanel, I'll
Yeah.
have you take that one.
I find real estate is the most capital intensive business that there is out there, bar none, right? So, and financing is so incredibly critical. So, for me, I want to approach every opportunity as the opportunity is, as opposed to putting my box on that opportunity. So, but I will say, my box on any opportunity is, can I get it with the financing? So I'm always asking that question, when I'm dealing with any type of an owner. If I bring your loan current, as an example, I can take over payments, I can improve your credit. So when you are ready, you can be able to make that next move versus, going to foreclosure or whatever, a short sale or a loan modification or whatever that might be. So I'm always asking my owners if I can take over that existing loan. So that's always number one. Number two, I built up a nice treasure chest of cash over the years. So it's not uncommon for me to put my own cash in there. And then number three, invest in my self-directed IRA. So in my self-directed IRA, I own rental properties. I own some rental properties subject to the existing financing. So I bought rental properties where the owner has kept their financing. So it's non-recourse to me, which Quest and all of the other self-directed IRA companies allow. I do loans out of my self-directed IRA. So that's kind of fun to be able to lend to other investors. And I also invest in A shares, right, for some of the multifamily projects that I'm invested in as well. So there's so many different opportunities, and of course there's private money lenders, hard money lenders, and, the people who are just getting, started who, want to partner with you as well. So, what I think what I want everyone to know, and Milani said this right at the beginning, she walked in and said, where's the money? Like, this is when she got started, and me too, right? So, but I will say, money will find a good deal. Don't worry about the money coming. And it's funny, Andrea, when you started with the discussion about Quest at the beginning, you're like, we've got $2.4 billion under management, and I think you said there was like 400 or 600 million that goes uninvested every single night, right? This is the whole reason why we, love you guys. It's like, this is a mark. What Quest is, especially for the networking events and the training events like you're doing right now. It's a marketplace for haves and wants to be able to get together, and for investors to be able to find financing, and work with people who have incredible sums of money that are sitting and waiting. It's like, I think you need to change your mindset. It's like, this money's waiting for me. It's like, where are you going to go get it? Well, I'm going to go to a Quest networking event, right? And I'm going to shake hands, press the flesh with about 10 people, and I'll probably walk out with about $1 million in funding, right? So it's like, that's how I want all of you guys to think about it. But multiple sources of capital, all the time. But you guys probably have at Quest have the most capital. You're the most well capitalized of any of my friends, right? So.
Awesome.
But I love
Love
what
that answer.
Chanel said also, of like the first one is using what they have, like using the loan that's already in place, especially with, interest rates being like Chanel has said, back at 7, right? It's not we can still handle as it raises, but utilize the ones that are still out there for lower than that for sure, because I think that that is the most utilized. I run the experienced real estate investors group here within our RIA, right? And I think that's the most underutilized type of capital, because so many people, when they first get in, like I did, it was like, okay, private lending and hard money. That's where I'm going to go. But Shanoa used 3 other things before she got to private lenders and hard money lenders. So just realizing how many creative financing options there are out there, and start to learn those different creative financing techniques, I think is a huge asset.
It's so interesting too, because I did a search of owner finance, those 2 words,
Yeah.
in the MLS for properties for one year ago, right? Versus properties that are listed as owner finance today in the MLS.
Yeah.
And that number is like, 3x. So it's one of those things. It's like, it's like kind of gradually happens. And all of a sudden, like, everyone's offering it because, well, duh, but this is only a strategy that people really think about when we're in an increasing interest rate market. And it's like, someone says, I got to sell my home. How am I going to do it? And some realtor says, well, I went to some class over at Quest, and these 3 ladies were talking about, this strategy. And well, maybe we should look a little bit more into that, because your house isn't selling and I really like to get in a commission. Right. So it's like, being in the right room, with the right people, with the right tribe, right, who has that experience, who can say, yeah, no, go use this. The times have changed, I think, is critical.
Amazing, amazing. Well, we're running towards the end of our time, and I wish we could stay here for hours, but I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So I think I want to switch it up now and cover some of the questions. A lot of questions have come in, and so I want to give an opportunity for you ladies to answer some of these questions. So this question from Byron Thomas. Do you see Airbnb as a danger to the area?
I don't know exactly what area, Byron, you're talking about, because that is a pretty broad, because this is a national call. But no, I don't see Airbnb. Well, first off, let me just say, are we talking about Airbnb like chapstick and Kleenex, right? Like, are we using that term as the actual Airbnb as the business, or are we using that to mean a short-term rental, right? Because there are a lot of different types of short-term rentals, right? There's corporate housing, there's vacation rentals, there's transient rentals. So there's a whole bunch of different types of short-term rentals. So if the question is, are short-term rentals in danger? No, but I think Shanoa is right that the supply and demand is out of whack right now, especially in some areas more than others. So you just want to be cautious about where you are starting short-term rentals. But yes, you can still make great money in short-term rentals. And then another thing within that question is, are we talking about owner occupied, or are we talking about arbitrage? Because there are also some issues with arbitrage that aren't getting addressed, because arbitrage is such a new baby infant niche. And arbitrage, if you're not familiar, is basically when somebody rents a house and then rents it out as a short-term rental, right? But they sign a 1-year contract usually, or whatever, with a landlord, right? And so there are some issues with arbitrage because rental rates are increasing, right? So are there dangers within short-term rentals? Yes, definitely. But can there still be a lot of money made in short-term rentals? Yes, definitely. So I don't know if I really answered that question the way you wanted me to, but hopefully I kind of addressed a bubble of it.
So I'll say that the danger part, it depends. Are you asking the neighbors, the HOA, the city, the
The
county?
investor.
Because if you ask those people, then literally your Airbnb is the site for filming Project X. Is the site for filming The Hangover, the movie, is the site for filming, something that gets blown up or something very dangerous, right? So it depends on who you ask. But and then, I'll say that, gosh, know the regulations in your area before you start that. And I know, Melania, I'm sure you go through that in incredible amount of detail. Some areas are super strict. Some areas are very lenient. But they are they're changing all the time because the neighbors don't want it, the HOAs don't want it, sometimes the cities don't want it, especially if they're in an affordable housing crunch. I mean, that's how it is, here in Austin, where I mean there's incredible overlays to kind of get in your way, right, of your plan. I wouldn't say they're a danger, but I would just say, and then on the investor side, they're not a danger. I mean, there are riches and niches, and Airbnb is an incredible niche. I mean, just take a look at how many nights rented there, have been, right? But understand your niche, right? Don't just romanticize. You also have to analyze. That is our job. So, there are several trackers that track, nights rented by area. So what the supply, what the game looks like before you jump in. So I think a lot of people jump into Airbnb with, with kind of, again, romanticizing the demand size and not analyzing the supply side. So it's not dangerous if you know what you're doing and the rules of the game and how the game's going to end up getting played out over the next 6 months if you do your homework.
Amazing. Question from M. Sina. What are your top choices for alternative assets?
You can go first, Noah.
Yeah, I mean, so I think just about everything we do is kind of alternative, right? I mean, I think everything in real estate, and Andrea, you put up a chart. I keep going back to all of your slides, right? It's like, here's the, and I think you listed like the top 20 things that most investors at Quest are into. So for me, I love, and I was steeped in terms of my family and long-term buy and hold, rental properties, right? So, for me, it's like I kind of joke, for the people who know Bluebell ice cream, which is in Texas, like they have this slogan. It's like, we eat all we can and we sell the rest. So for me as a real estate investor, I keep all I can, all the rentals that I can, and then I sell enough to be able to fund my lifestyle. But after that, I want to just keep it. So usually at, the halfway mark at the, the year, my husband's like, okay, we made enough money to live the rest of the year. Can we keep everything else, right? To be able to build our wealth through appreciation. So that's kind of how I look at it. And then of course, opportunistically, I'll do great, loans to great individuals with great projects, right? I'll invest in a lot of, multifamily. Most of my multifamily investments are, kind of $100,000 investments. So I'm just like kind of putting, several different bets on the table, right? So that's something that's fun for me to be part of as well, and also grows my tribe outside of just single family investing. And I'm interested in looking at everything. So Milani said, like, she's, kind of in a way, you said, like, I'm a student of the market, right? I want to learn. Like, to me, that is my joy. It's like, I love reading. I love, and I love kind of bringing that back to, my tribe, whatever I find that, moved me or changed my business. So I think being that student of the market is absolutely critical, and especially when we're in a market that's in, and a little bit, and more than a little bit of turmoil. But what I love about, real estate is, if you're investing in the stock market, it's like you literally need, it's like, okay, you bought $100,000 worth of stock, and here's your defibrillator, because you're going to need it as the stock market is going like this. But if you look at the real estate market, it's kind of like, yeah, we're doing okay. We're not, you just don't see the volatility of the stock market is like this. Volatility in the real estate market is like this. Like, I like to sleep at night. Real estate helps me sleep at night, so
Yeah.
I love these alternative investments. It's like, I know when I can drive by it, if I want to go and take a look at it. So any of those items that Andrea listed at the beginning, I think are great opportunities. But again, do the analysis. Like, you will be made or you will be broken based on your due diligence. That's just life.
Yeah. I would just add, we've talked a lot about, owner financing options are great alternatives. Notes, long-term notes are doing great. I feel like right now there's lots of options for that. But obviously my passion right now, I still think that we're going to continue to see more, not just home sharing, right? Like one of our properties, we not only have it's a house with a separated detached garage, right? And in the garage, above the garage, there's a studio that we added a bathroom to, and we put a mini fridge and a microwave in there, right? So we've got two technical Airbnbs. Plus, we rent out the garage on a site called neighbor.com as a storage unit, right? And then it has about an acre and a half that we rent out as pasture land, right? And then we also park a car there that is automatically like kind of just runs its own as on Turo,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
home sharing that one property has like 5 different streams of income, maybe 6, just on that one property, right? So alternative assets are just going crazy, and we're going to continue to see more and more opportunities, not just in homes, right? But what can you do with the whole property? I think we're beginning to see that more and more as well.
That's clever. I love that.
All right, I think we can squeeze in one more question before we close off. How to find owner finance real estate deals?
I
Ask.
think
I
you
mean,
go first, Trino.
you just ask,
I
like,
was gonna say, they don't oftentimes they don't know it exists. You have something better than they can even imagine impossible. I mean, oftentimes, right? You're going to have to teach them what it is, because it's not like you can go to a website. I mean, I don't know. That's not how I've had luck doing it. I've had luck just asking and training them of this amazing opportunities that's out there. But you're gonna find the house in the same way you'd find an Airbnb or a purchase house or a rental house. Like all of the things, you're going to find the house the same way, and then you just have to ask and then train them what that actually means and walk them through it.
yeah, for me, the exactly what to say for the real estate investor is, if I can meet your price, can you meet my terms? Right. So if I can hit your price that you want to sell it to me at, can you meet my terms, which is buying it owner financing? Right. It's like, I often ask, like, what are you doing with the money? And most people will say, I'm going to put it in the bank. It's like, well, of all the most terrible places to put it right now, yeah, that would be the bank. How about a, asset that cannot go to zero, right? How about, investing in what, you've already owned part of, right? Except avoiding the tenants, the toilets, and all the headache, and letting me take that over. And how about I build your credit in the meantime, right? By reinstating your loan and making your payments on time every month going forward. And then, what I found too is, because 70% of loans out there are under 4% or under, um, and if my alternative, or if your alternative is getting a hard money loan at 14% and 2 or 3 points, man, cut them in on the deal, right? So give them, instead of giving them a little yield spread, right? So instead of buying it from them at 4% interest, maybe buy it from them at 6% interest, so they get a monthly cash flow on top of it, right? And then alternatively, I've found that, the best way to be able to sway someone over is typically an extra $2,000 to $3,000 will get them saying, okay, yes, now I like the owner financing a lot better. And the truth is, it'll probably, instead of hurting you $2,000 to $3,000, it'll probably save you $10,000 to $15,000 over the time that you own that property. So, sweeten it for them to share a little bit of that benefit, and bring them along for the ride as well.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I think we're getting ready to close here. I do know that there's a few questions, more questions on there. And so I want to say that anything IRA, self-directed IRA related, you guys can contact me. We're going to leave you with our email address and phone number so that you can contact us directly. I do want to ask for you, Melanie and Shano, if you want to, if people want to reach out to you, how can they contact you if they have questions or if they are interested in learning more about you?
Yeah, I would say you can reach out to me on Instagram just at Melanie Hawk. That's I will be able to contact you to the person that would be able to help you the most.
And so for me, Texas REIAs, REIAS.com. So we have live meetings in Austin, Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio. For those of you guys who are in Texas, and for those of you guys who are outside of Texas, just go to the Texas REIAs Facebook page. We simulcast our meetings so you guys can watch them there too. And it's a great way to connect. Texas is an incredible market. It's where so many people are moving to. I know, Milani, your market is the same. So is Florida, right? It's like we've got the right politics, we've got the right taxes, and we got the businesses. So people are attracted there. So love to, even if you're out of state, love to help make sure you can be successful as a real estate investor investing here in Texas. And Andrea, thank you so much for having us in Quest, my friend.
Thank you, everybody, for joining, and for you too. It's been amazing. Thank you for all the insight. It's been amazing. So appreciate you too.
Milani,
Thanks,
great
guys.
to meet you. Bye, Andrea. Have a great day.